What do you consider to be the real you? Is it the way you are with your family, the way you are with your friends, the version of yourself at work or school, or the you when you're all alone? Or is there no real answer to the question at all? Rise Kujikawa, the rising idol star who, after abruptly announcing her break in mid-June, gets caught up in the mysterious serial murder incident in Inaba and joins the investigation team to discover the culprit. She acts as this group's navigator through the TV world. Rise, although only moving to Inaba months after your arrival, being the third dungeon and the fifth person to join your own party, is actually the fourth person you'd ever see when playing Persona 4. After you'd meet Igor, Margaret, and technically the protagonist, Rise would appear as her idol self, Rosette, advertising on TV. Obviously, this is an easy way to show to the player that Rise is incredibly popular, even without needing to properly introduce her. All the more, I think there is something to be said about the fact that this is kind of all you see of Rise for quite a while. She's one of the earliest characters we see, and all we see of her is her being sexualized in a bikini. Not her name, not who she is, not what she does. For most of the game, this is all you would know her as. Hell, you would probably think she's irrelevant if you didn't look at the opening. But most of this is highlighted much better in her dungeon. We don't see Rise at all after her first appearance until, at least for me, over 20 hours. In this time, Yuna Kami finds out about the Midnight Channel, discovers the world inside the TV, awakens to his persona, finds out that a serial murderer is utilizing the TV to kill his victims, and then realizes that appearing on TV most likely triggers you to be the next victim, and has already saved two other people, Yukiko Amagi and Kanji Tatsumi, from their fate, and began the investigation team. And when she finally appears after all this has happened, it's to announce her impromptu break, with no real specified reason, and also announces that she'll be returning to her hometown of Inaba. Obviously, she becomes the talk of the town, with rumors spreading about where she'll be staying, what caused her break, and general excitement that an idol is coming down to basically the boonies. Most people aren't really treating her like a person. She's like a zoo animal on display. Even in our own group, Yosuke talks about her, well, like a teenager talks about a porn star. But once the talk dies down, it becomes clear to the group that her arrival in Inaba after appearing on TV means that she might very well be the next victim. So once the group gets their chance, they head to the tofu shop Rise's grandma is running, and where Rise herself should be. It's at this time we get to see a different side to Rise. In the advertisement, Rise has a high-pitched voice. She was bubbly, joyful, and overtly sexualized. But here, Rise is calm. She sounds much lower pitched, she's honest, and she's much more mature than the airheaded girl we saw before. I also think that it was a purposeful contrast to have her first appear in a bikini and then appear almost entirely covered. It's an obvious contrast. Yosuke speaks of her like some sort of heavenly spirit, like a god, or in this case, a goddess. But when you finally meet her, she's just a girl. As the trio of Yosuke, Kanji, and Narukami continue to talk to her, you can sort of see that realization within Yosuke's dialogue. As the conversation continues, he starts to act more respectful. He doesn't stutter his every word and genuinely tries to tell Rise that she'll be in danger. It really shows that no one really knows Rise. It took one small, short conversation for Yosuke to get it, but no one does that. No one gets her. The group informs her that she's likely to get attacked, and I always thought it was a little interesting just how little Rise cares. Of course, she's an entertainer who's dealt with rumors, threats, and everything in between, so when a bunch of high schoolers tell her that she'll be in danger, it probably doesn't mean much to her. But, like, the literal police who have been investigating this case for months tell her the same thing, and she seems to barely care. It says a lot that Rise is in this sort of mental state where the idea of being put in danger barely matters. Despite the group's best efforts, Rise is still shoved into a TV and kidnapped, disappearing on June 23rd. Rise's dungeon is Mariku's striptease. It's a mix of a strip club and a runway. Her dungeon, like the others, is born from her own feelings. The eyes that are littering the floor are a representation of her fans, watching from afar yet unseen. Adding to this is the fact that before fighting the mini-boss of Risei's dungeon, you can hear the crowds watching the Midnight Channel cheering. Now, this isn't the first time that it's been implied that the people watching the Midnight Channel are seeing the events occurring, but this would be the first time that we actively hear them. Adding to the dungeon's design, the kiss marks and silhouette of women behind the curtain are there to express Risei's own perception, that the sexualizing nature of a lot of the gigs she takes are only one step away from revealing everything, all of what's left behind being a thinly veiled curtain. This also could be a stretch, but I'm fairly certain I'm kind of on the mark here, but I think the reason that there is a pitfall on the edges of the floor in Risei's dungeon are sort of there to represent that the eyes on the floor, aka the viewer, can never really reach Risei, who is in this case behind the curtain, as they watch her through the screen. The stage lights at the entrance and throughout the dungeon are meant to further represent this, showing how every part of the idol Rosette is on stage for everyone to see. The mini-boss in Risei's dungeon is pretty bland, with two gender signs around its neck and the male going through the female. Along with Risei asking you to be gentle before the fight, the image is clear and I don't think I really need to explain it. The white snake itself, however, is interesting. Snakes are well known for shedding their skin. I think this is meant to represent how Risei, as an idol in the entertainment industry, has to constantly change the way she acts, feels, and responds to people in order to succeed, whether that be appealing to a potential contact, interacting with friends, or just knowing what to say to management. These personas are shed each time she needs to play a new part, and as time goes on, they mix and blend until she can no longer distinguish who the real Risei is. Now, after the mini-boss, the investigation team reaches the top floor of Marikyu. There, they confront Risei's shadow, who's seen dancing on a pole she criticizes and berates Risei, claiming that the sort of sexualizing performance she has as an idol is exactly what she wants. Now, to dissect what Risei's shadow is truly saying, it would probably be best that I explain what a shadow really is. So, borrowing from Persona's own definition in FES in the answer, shadows are the lower parts of the psyche everyone has, suppressed human thoughts given physical form. When people are unable to face their darker selves, they break loose, free from all control. But sometimes, humans with special awareness can tame their shadows. Those are persona users. Shadows are pretty much the complete manifestation of one's suppressed thoughts. Thus, it results in a sort of bastardization where the shadow isn't an exact reflection, but more of an exaggeration of how the person feels. That's why palace rulers in Persona 5, for example, act more like comically cartoonish villains than they do outside of the metaverse. So, while Risei's shadow seems to be implying that Risei wants to, sexualize herself and go further than what she's currently doing as an idol, what it's really saying is that Risei, despite appearing like she's sick and tired of her idol life, and Rosette as a whole, still wants to be an idol. But, like those before her, Risei rejects her shadow, causing it to go berserk. Risei's shadow is, interesting. The multiple array of colors blending together with no uniform shape is indicative of the fact that Risei is confused and has no clue who she truly is. The multiple faces of Rosette and Risei mixing together with no clear face and control. Of course, the massive satellite dish on Risei's face represents her broadcasting herself to the masses as the idol Rosette, and the pole dancing further emphasizes the sexualization and lack of control over Risei's own sex. One thing I've always felt fit Risei when it came to combat was her ability, which appears first here during her boss. But seriously, analysis really is the perfect ability for an idol that has spent years in the industry and knows what she needs to say, how she needs to act, or what she needs to do to target someone's weakness. So having her literally analyze and discover enemy weaknesses as a navigator is perfect. After defeating her shadow, Risei comes to the conclusion that her shadow is a part of her, and the things she says are true and a part of her too.
Here, stand up. I'm sorry. You must have been in a lot of pain up to now. You're part of me, but I kept refusing to admit you existed. I was trying to figure out who the real me was. But I realize now that I was on the wrong track. There is no real me. It just doesn't exist.
There's no real me?
You, me, even Rosette. They were all born from me. All of them are... me.
After accepting the side of her that she had looked away from and denied for so long, her shadow transfigures into her persona, Himiko. Himiko's design retains the satellite elements from her shadow, but now has a sort of headset that Rise can place on herself when scanning. In a way, Rise now has control of what's being broadcasted to the masses. Himiko's description in Persona 4 reads, Himiko is one of the figures of Japanese folklore who comes from the historical period so ancient that there's almost no way to distinguish fact from myth. Himiko is one of the early rulers of the part of Japan, then called Yamato, and was powerful enough to establish friendly relations with China. Her people, at least, believe she had magical powers, and she's often categorized as a priestess or shaman in descriptions. Himiko's rule was famously peaceful, so much so that, for a time, her people believed peace could only come from being ruled by a woman. Rise obviously isn't a literal queen, but they hold similar positions of fame, respect, and benefit from the public. And of course, as an idol, Rise too is worshipped by her fans. Once Rise recovers, she tells Narukami, who she has started to show some sort of affection for, to show her around town, since it's hard for her to get out on her own without getting recognized. This is the start and birth of the Lover's Arcana in Persona 4, the social link for Rise Kujikawa. The Lover's Arcana on its own is meant to signify unconditional love, obviously, a deep connection and attraction. It's meant to signify a strong bond between people. Of course, this fits Rise well. She unconditionally falls in love with Narukami fast after he saves her, and even in the early stages of the social link, Rise is honest and trusting of Narukami. The Lover's card is depicted as a man and woman united under the angel Raphael, like the two sides, Rise and Rosette. When reversed, it signifies an inability for the two sides to be united, like Rise is before her dungeon, unable to accept or unite herself with Rosette. In terms of the Fool's journey, the Fool is challenged with wanting a relationship. Of course, Rise is the most forthcoming of her romantic feelings, but it's also meant to be a moment where the Fool is meant to come to a conclusion on their own beliefs, where they learn to grow and to be true to themselves. This is obviously meant to represent Rise's journey on both her dungeon and social link, as she comes to a conclusion on her true self. Rise's second rank and her first appropriate social link event establishes a bit of Rise's past. She tells Narukami that her parents were extremely strict, and that she had no friends and she rarely ever went to school. Although it's short, Rise's rank 2 does a good job at establishing, at least to me, that before Rise became an idol, she was pretty much a loner who was restricted due to her parents and became an idol as sort of a way to finally gain popularity and friends, and in her eyes, a form of freedom. Now, obviously, if you know almost literally anything about the idol industry, Rise was most definitely not free. It is practically standard for idols to be completely barred from having love lives, going out with males publicly, or having their weight and eating habits constantly monitored, and having public appearances, statements, and actions regulated. Rise's rank 3 is probably one of her most important ranks. It displays a lot of the negative aspects of Rise becoming an idol, especially at how young she was, and also just how much of it affects her even after she quits. The link starts with Narukami and Rise shopping for clothes. Eventually, a fan of Rosette asks her if they're the same person, and she denies it. She does so for countless people that ask her that day, and it's a genuine accomplishment for her. Rise clearly has yet to fully accept the fact that Rosette is a part of the real Rise, and it sort of becomes clear that she's using the investigation and anything related to it as a sort of crutch to not have to face that. As long as she's investigating with the group, as long as she's looking for the culprit, as long as they're going into the TV and just focusing on shadows, she doesn't have to ever worry about her idol life, and that way she never has to worry about accepting that maybe Rosette and Rise are the same person. Rise's rank 4 kind of starts the main plot of Rise's story. After coming back from eating, Rise spots her old manager, Inoue, standing outside her grandmother's tofu shop. After a bit of arguing, Rise defends her decision to not return to showbiz after proclaiming that she's decided to marry Narukami, an obvious problem for the industry to make him leave. Once he's gone, Rise thanks you for going along with it. The idea that Rise isn't fully confident in her decision starts to settle here, with Rise telling Narukami that Inoue saw her as a daughter, and the awkward silence after Rise tries to tell you that he's just a stranger to her now that she's left the industry, followed up by the awkward attempt to make a sort of flirty joke, is kind of telling that she herself doesn't believe any of that. In Rank 5, Rise talks to Narukami about how she feels about Rosette. She felt as though she was forcing herself and being someone she wasn't, as if she was just acting. The way she words it gives the impression that it was more of a revelation that came to her eventually, and that at one point she saw Rosette as an extension of herself, or even her true self, before losing grasp of that. Rise then tells Narukami that before becoming an idol, she was a loner. She had no friends, and nothing was really expected of her. Eventually, without her knowledge, her relatives turned in her application, and next thing she knew, she was the idol Rosette, seeing it as a chance to better herself. And as time went on, Rosette increased in popularity, but eventually the idea that Rosette, the person everyone adored and loved, wasn't her, seeped in. The people at school that stopped bullying her weren't interested in being friends with the person they bullied, Rise Kujikawa. They wanted to be friends with the idol Rosette. Her insecurity of actually being appreciated for the girl Rise and not Rosette are still present. She's sure that even Narukami only cares about her because she's Rosette. But now she deep down knows that she has friends who know who she really is, people that saw her shadow and know how Rise feels deep down. She now has the power to help people with her persona, and she can live as the normal girl Rise Kujikawa. And with that, Rise's social link is about halfway done, which is usually the sign in a Persona game that we're suddenly going to start learning way more about the character. Side note about that, it works with party members as we see them a lot throughout the story, and I get why non-party members take a while, because it would be really jarring if you played a game where everyone you meet just spews out their life story 5 minutes in. But I feel like there are just some characters that take way too long to tell me anything. Totally not naming names though, and there's definitely no correlation to the characters on screen at the moment. Anyway, Rise's rank 6 starts with Inoue giving you a letter to deliver to her. Rise tells you that the fan letter came from a middle school girl who was inspired by Rosette to overcome her bullies and make friends. Rise admits that these letters made her feel like her idol self served some form of purpose, and after reading the letter, she became visibly upset, having to remind herself that she entirely gave up on being Rosette. This is sort of the point in the story where the investigation team and this sort of escapism that she had been using to avoid confronting Rosette kind of cracks. Rise clearly still has regrets about ending her career, and the signs were there since rank 3. Well, you could actually say the signs were there from the very beginning, as accepting Rosette as herself sort of implies that it was a necessary part of her, and thus someone she needs to be. Rise's rank 7 kind of acts as a parallel to rank 3, as Rise starts to feel more regret for her decision. You return to Okinawa City, but instead of being bombarded by fans, Rosette has sort of been forgotten, or well, replaced. Kanamine, a different idol from Rosette's management, has replaced her in the upcoming movie that she was meant to star in. She acts as if she doesn't mind, but she gets jealous as passerbys are not only praising Kanamine for being real, but slandering Rosette for being inauthentic, as she's frustrated over the fact that people can't even see that Kanamine is just as manufactured as she was. But the most important part of this rank comes after, at least to me. Rise takes Narukami back and apologizing, asking him if he is happy with the way things are, if he's happy to be friends with her. She puts specific emphasis into the fact that she's an ex-idol after all. Rise has been trying to differentiate herself from Rosette and tell you that that isn't her, yet when it comes down to it, she still utilizes this as if it is a part of her, as if her being an ex-idol is her. She's been trying to say that the words that people say about Rosette and the way people think about Rosette don't matter, that the person they're talking about isn't her, so they shouldn't affect her. Yet, when those words from strangers talking about this different person reach her, they hurt. When she tries to be reassured, she talks about her like they're one and the same. Regardless of your answer, Rise is conflicted. Then, as long as you do this rank at the right time, Nanako will come to the two of you and tell Rise that regardless of anything, Rise is Rise, and she likes the Rise that she met, even if it isn't the same exact one on TV. In the end, Rise attempts to reassure herself. She knows why she left showbiz. She knows what she wants, to simply be friends with people that know the real Rise. Rank 8 serves as the straw that breaks the camel's back, or in this case, breaks Rise's resolve. The deputy mayor mentions that Kanamine will be filming nearby, for the same movie that she replaced Rosette in. Inoue even comes by to ask Rise one more time if she's done with Rosette, and then praises her abilities after Rise declines. Rise, no longer able to hold it in, breaks down crying, still not fully understanding why she's letting this get to her. She herself doesn't get why, but she feels as though she's lost everything. Despite knowing she has her friends and her family, she still feels like she's lost something. That, of course, being her life as Rosette. After thinking through the past events, Rise comes to a conclusion. Rise spent her life constantly searching for her true self, unaware of the fact that all she was doing was focusing on one part of herself and abandoning the other, constantly in search for the whole. The idol Rosette, the shy girl before that, and the current Rise are all part of one whole. They're all the real Rise. Rise's final rank is the final step in Rise accepting Rosette, deciding to return to showbiz in April next year, finally resolving to stop turning away and abandoning the multiple faces of Rise that make up the whole. Her decision signified by the signed photo she gives to Narukami. Despite depicting the plain schoolgirl Rise, she still signed it Rosette, because regardless of which side of her is in the photo, they're all Rise.
Senpai, I won't make the same mistake. There's no such thing as a me who isn't me. So I won't run away. I won't try to be someone I'm not. There's a lot of Rises inside me. I won't try to change them. Instead, I'll let people know that those Rises exist. That's the me I want to be.
Finally facing her weakness and fully embracing her shadow, all the versions of herself she's ran from, Rise awakens her persona. Himiko is reborn as Kanzeon. Kanzeon is based off of Kanzeon Botatsu, the Buddhist goddess of mercy and compassion. Kanzeon is described to be one who achieves enlightenment, but postpones Buddhahood until all can be saved. Similar to how, despite realizing that she values her life in Inaba with all her friends, Rise returns to her idling career to help people like the bullied girl who sends her letters, people who see her as a beacon of hope and an inspiration to keep trying. These are the people Rise saves. Kanzeon was said to have attempted to aid those who needed her, but with only 2 hands at her disposal, she was unable to do it until Amitabha Buddha, her spiritual teacher, gave her 1,000 arms so that she could complete her task, reflecting how using her ability as an idol, Rosette has an infinite reach to those who need help. Kanzeon is also described as the bodhisattva who sees or is cognizant of the sounds or cries of the world, and responds with compassion to save beings from all kinds of misfortune and suffering. This, of course, paints an obvious connection to how Rise gains the ability to see the cries of her teammates and protect them from shadows. To signify Rise's persona's enlightenment, she learns Weakness Scan, the ability to immediately know the weakness of an enemy upon first seeing it. In terms of design, Kanzeon now has a black and white striped dress. Compare this to the separating, changing colors of Rise's shadow, all versions of Rise uncontrolled and ignored, or the singular white of Himiko, as Rise only faces one side of herself. Kanzeon stands as a perfect blend and balance, with Rise accepting Rosette and Rise as equals. Kanzeon is now adorned with more satellites, now with one facing in every direction, as Rise is now choosing to broadcast Rosette herself, and she wants that broadcast to reach all those that need to see it. Lastly, there's her true awakening. After the investigation is over, after a year in Inaba, Rise receives another letter from her fan, but this is her final one. She was given the ultimatum from a new friend, either choose her friend or Rise. Rise realizes that, regardless of intention, people always manage to hurt others, and despite this, she still wants to be others' strength. She still wants to be there to help people, that she'll endure the unintentional pain thrown at her and continue to help all the people that need her.
An idol isn't some doll in a window being held up for public display. I think it means somebody who can endure things and stand their ground, no matter which way they're pushed. Even if that girl doesn't write me letters, I bet she'll still watch me if I'm on TV. I can be her strength, as well as many other people's strengths. Even though many things may not go my way and I may be troubled, swept off my feet and get lost, I won't lose. I have to protect the smiles of the people who are precious to me. That's the resolve I found after meeting all of you.
Having developed so much over the year, Kanzeon takes one final form, becoming Kozeon, an alternate name for Kanzeon, the telescope head and planet surrounding her symbolizing the far reach Rise has, not just in fame, but in understanding of others, shown in her new ability, Complete Analysis, letting her see all affinities of all enemies, not just their weaknesses. Rise now understands people as a whole. Rise's story comes down to one of self-discovery and understanding yourself. Rise thought she understood what parts of her were and weren't to her, in search of the next real her, but she would eventually reject that part of her, in search for another idealized, true self, unaware that all parts of her are Rise. There's no real version of herself deep down. All parts of Rise create who she is. Just like all sides of you make up who you are. The version of yourself with your family is you. The version of yourself with your friends is you. The part of you when you're all alone is you. When you come down to it, it's all you.